Hello, welcome to Wits End. My name is Mike Walsh and I'm here to spoil your day. The thought of an afterlife, the thought of a life after death is humanity's dearest dream. The thing we ardently pray for, the thing we want to believe in the most. That death isn't the end, that there is something more in store for us other than a cold, wormy grave or the fierce consuming fires of the local crematorium. Life is a clock without hands. It is always ticking, but it doesn't tell us how much time we've got. The idea of our utter extinction is unbearable. The prospect that we are doomed to disappear without a trace is too terrifying to contemplate. No, no, we cried. That's not fair. There must be something more, some purpose to it all. But is there? Death is not a popular topic at the dinner table. It's not a popular topic anywhere, except at the undertaker's. The certainty of death is terrifying. The process of death is terrifying. The way most people handle the terror is not to think about death. Pretend it's not waiting around the corner with a lipless grin. Humanity has gone to great lengths to deny death. We find it hard to deal with the fact of our utter disappearance into nothingness, as if we never lived, dreamed, hoped, loved, suffered, and sacrificed. Not only gone, but in time totally forgotten. Even on our deathbed, we refuse to believe this grim truth. Doctor, doctor, please have a look. My brow is fevered, my genitals cook. Doctor, doctor, what can I do? My ears, they ooze a greenish goo. Doctor, doctor, what's to be done? My legs won't move, my bowels run. Doctor, doctor, tell me for true. Observe my feet, that sticky dew. Doctor, doctor, what is it you see? That wriggling worm, did it come from me? Doctor, doctor, how long have I got? Below the chin, I'm starting to rot. Doctor, doctor, how foul you smell. It can't be me, I'm getting well. The body dies. It dies in spite of our howls of protest and cowardly denials. Attitudes towards death vary greatly. The ancient Greeks didn't deny death. Instead, they put the emphasis on life. Death to them was a shadowy, miserable continuation of existence without any joy or fun. The gloomy Egyptians were obsessed by death. They put their efforts into building great temples of death and preserving corpses, believing a body was necessary in the next life. The Jews are more realistic. They accept death and comfort themselves with the notion that death of the individual is a small thing compared to the state of happiness and justice ultimately to be achieved by mankind in this world. The Buddhists believe in reincarnation, one rebirth after another, a long string of suffering to go on indefinitely before being engulfed in nothingness, which they call nirvana, perfect peace. The Christians scoff at death, choosing to believe that it's a wonderful thing, the gateway to an afterlife of eternal bliss. Our own era chooses to repress the whole idea of death. Instead of allowing death to become an incentive to life, we sweep it under the carpet. But that doesn't stop the fear. Death takes on a kind of stealthy, illegal existence. It jumps out of the dark to terrify us when we least expect it. Dusty theologians and optimistic philosophers have devised a get-out clause to escape this death sentence. It's called the soul. Definitions of the soul, just what it is, are rather vague. The dusty theologians and the optimistic philosophers get into a terrible tangle every time they try to explain it. So they attempt to define it by explaining what the soul is not. We know it's not a material thing. It has no mass. It's invisible and undetectable, even more insubstantial than a ghost. Yet it is supposed to be an integral part of us, the only part that survives the death of the body. It is associated not with the brain, but with something called the mind, another nebulous concept. Soul and mind are basically the same thing. If it's true that we do have a soul and that it lives on after death, what sort of life does it have? Where does it live? In heaven, floating around on a cloud? Or in hell, getting roasted on a spit? It's hard to see what difference it makes. Without a body, pleasure and happiness would be severely limited, and the so-called fires of hell would have no effect. What if heaven and hell don't exist? What then? Where does the soul find a home? The problems of the soul don't end there. Is the soul us, a sort of disembodied doppelganger? Does it have our memories, our personalities, our desires, our likes and dislikes, our good points and our bad? All the unique characteristics that make us, us and nobody else. What if the soul only takes the good things with it, only happy memories, only the sunny side of our personalities, leaving behind the bad things like carnal desires, dislikes, and our shadow side? If that's the case, then it wouldn't really be us. It would only be half us, and that would make us someone else. When the soul leaves the body, it loses its home, the ability to act or to change anything, and perhaps even its identity. How could a soul even think without a brain? The idea of drifting aimlessly around the cosmos like a homeless tramp, suffering from amnesia, seems a pretty grim sort of afterlife, like a wet weekend in Margate that goes on forever and ever. If you don't examine the idea of the soul too closely, it's a genuinely comforting notion. Faith gives us strength. Faith gives us the courage to carry on in the teeth of grueling hardships. It keeps us from falling into utter despair when the world seems like a black hole with no bottom. The belief in an afterlife holds the terror at bay, convinces us that all the suffering and unhappiness that goes along with living won't have been for nothing, that indeed life has meaning, that there will be some reward at the end of it all. Faith and reason seldom agree. Faith says, if I believe, it must be true. Reason stares back with contempt and says, show me the evidence. Alas, there is no evidence for the soul, only conjecture and hope. Without the soul to float heavenward, the possibility of an afterlife dissolves like cigarette smoke into thin air, and the terror won't go away. God, heaven, the soul, and religion itself was built on the terror of death. Animals have no religion. They worship at no shrine because death has no meaning for them. They aren't afraid of it because they aren't aware of it. Only human beings are aware of death. Nature has bestowed this curse on its most sophisticated creation as a consequence of our self-awareness and our ability to draw conclusions from our observations. Human beings are clever enough to invent fictions that will comfort and soothe the uneasy mind. I fear the soul is just such a fiction. What if it's all just bullshit? That there is no God, no heaven, no afterlife? What if our existence really is meaningless? A strange, inexplicable accident without reason or purpose? That is the existentialist view. They point out that the onus is on us to provide the meaning. Human beings have powerful hunger to believe in something larger than themselves, a creed, a sturdy tree to hang on to throughout the storm we call life. Religion is one tree. There are many to choose from. Politics, art, science, money-making, nationalism, race, and family are others. Cults and mass movements are also popular, particularly among failures, misfits, minorities, and sinners seeking redemption. But these are just substitutes, a way of distracting us from the suppressed terror of death. Only God has the remedy. Only religion offers us a way out, an answer to the great riddle of life. People of faith are the happiest and most untroubled. Nothing can pry them loose from their chosen tree. The rest of us grasp at twigs and are tossed around in the storm to find shelter where we can. Atheists and non-believers pay a penalty for their skepticism. They must face death naked, stripped of all illusions and comforting fairy tales. The hero and the heroine are the ones who have entered the kingdom of death and come back alive. The survivors of war. The firefighters who dash into a burning house to save a child. The witch doctor who braves the spirit world to drive illness away. The world's myths are filled with heroic characters who have descended into the underworld to accomplish some mission for the benefit of mankind. Alas, most of us are not heroes, standing tall and strong in our nakedness, staring death in the face and spitting in his eye. We shiver and cringe in our nakedness, beg for mercy, and mumble a prayer just in case, against all the odds, a merciful God really does exist. There is one final ray of hope. Perhaps life here on earth is merely a dream. It seems real, but is not. Our real self exists in another dimension, somewhere absorbing our memories and experiences as they happen. Could it be that death is only waking up from this dream of life? That our dream selves rise at death to join our real selves in an entirely different place, outside of time and earthly suffering? Whenever I think of death, I think of Joseph Stalin in his Kremlin office at 3 o'clock in the morning. His finger is running down a list of names. The finger arbitrarily stops at a certain name, a person he has never heard of and has no grudge against. Uncle Joe smiles and reaches for the phone. That person is innocently unaware that doom is coming. He expects to wake up and drink a cup of coffee. It comes as a terrible shock to discover that he won't live to see daylight. Death is an awfully big adventure. That's the way I look at it. My bags are packed and I'm ready to go. I can't say I'm looking forward to the trip, but a part of me is curious to know what lies behind the veil that separates life from death. Will all be revealed, or will it just be darkness and oblivion? What do you think? Is an afterlife possible? You tell me. The verdict is yours to decide. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and click on the link to my website in the description below. Until the next time, stay frosty, stay skeptical, and never lick the bone of a dead saint if there's still meat on it.